have to paint things that don't exist in real life. When I was younger, much younger, I loved Tolkien, and I loved Lord of the Rings. So when I came to the cinema, and I went to the cinema and I watched Lord of the Rings, for me it was like a mind changing, like, wow, this is amazing. I want to be there. And then with the time, because I always loved the behind the scenes, when I realized about all of those miniatures that they called Vigatures, because they were so massive, and I thought, oh my God, I want to do that. I want to do that. How can I do that? And that was the start of looking for something similar in Spain, where I'm from. There are not such a thing. Back on when I started like 20 years ago, there were no many fantasy films and sci-fi films, but I was lucky enough to get into a scenery company and start working on sets and props and prosthetics, a little bit of everything. And suddenly Guillermo del Toro came into this company because he wanted to do his next film. Back then it was Pan's Labyrinth, and I was lucky enough to be part of it. And I thought, okay, this is definitely what I'm doing the rest of my life.
Wow. On that first film, what did you specifically work on? Like, what was your role in that art department? Is it the art department is what you would call it?
It's art department, but in that
Yeah.
case it was different, because sometimes in movies, especially when movies are like not as big as blockbusters, they usually get like commission companies with different stuff, and that was the case. I was working for a company in Spain, in Madrid, called Artefacto, and they did something for Guillermo del Toro on his previous movie, The Devil's Spine or something like that. And then they were commissioned to do some props for Pan's Labyrinth. So I was sculpting and painting like all the furniture that the pale man, I don't know if you remember the guy with the eyes on his hands. We were making and painting the massive table, the throne, the chair where he sit down, like massive stone walls with little doors where Ophelia, the main character, introduced a key to open a little door. We were doing other totems, like stone totems, like things, bits and bobs for the magic and the fantasy world. It was amazing.
What an amazing first film. That's so cool.
Yeah, actually, it was amazing. And at the same time, it was like my course, because after that, nothing was going to be as cool as that, if you know what I mean. So after that, I was working on commercials, some movies, learning. It's still amazing for me because I was learning. But 6 years later, I thought, okay, here I'm never gonna do something as cool as Pan's Labyrinth, and it's when I decide to move into London, UK.
Did you decide because there's more opportunity in London versus Spain?
Yeah, definitely. When you change your country, when you leave your country, you're looking for a better life in many ways. And for me, it was like looking for amazing opportunities work-wise. And definitely when I land in London, I didn't realize before, even if my friends who lived here told me, I didn't realize how many Hollywood movies were filmed here, and that thing that's been growing in the late 15 years since I moved in. So yeah, it's really remarkable.
Wow. Juicy.
It's so sweet.
I don't know what he's doing, but
Oh, it's so sweet.
that's Billy.
Hello, Billy.
Anyways, okay, so for the listeners who don't know, how would you describe what a scenic painter actually does on a film?
Okay, so my job is about to trick your eye. I have to paint things that other people have made because they don't exist in real life. Maybe because they are sci-fi or fantasy, maybe because of the size, or maybe because they need to be broken for some reason on the script. So my work is painted them once my mates make them, painted them as real as possible for a close up, for a general shot, for whatever. And I can paint. I can turn a piece of plastic into wood, into metal, into stone, concrete, whatever
Wow.
the object needs to look like. Yeah, that's mainly what I do. And also, sometimes I paint also puppets and creatures on stop motion movies or on fantasy movies.
Do you have like a favorite type of prop you like to paint? Like, there's furniture, there's like actual creatures, there's puppets, like you said. Like, what do you have a favorite?
I don't think I have a favorite. I think when you start working on a specific movie at the beginning, you get specialized on something because this movie is going to be more about it. Like in Star Wars, you are going to do a lot of chrome and metal effect. So you get used to it and you dig into it and you get better into it. So you kind of like it more. But then you get into Gladiator II and you start doing marble and granite plinths or stuff, and then you realize how cool is painting marble. So it depends how much you get into something, how deep you get into something. You take it like something that you really like until you change.
Yeah. Well, it keeps you on your toes, right?
Yeah,
It's like, oh.
yeah, definitely.
um, I just watched Project Hail Mary, and I was thinking about you when I was watching it because I was thinking, you're painting like Rocky, for example, you're painting something that has no real world reference, at least to my knowledge. And so I was curious, where do you begin as a painter? Do you get direction that's specific to like what it should look like? I'm just very curious about the process.
It's very interesting because when I start on this movie, I usually in other movies I usually have references, or sometimes I have like a proper design made by a concept artist that is very specific about on textures and colors and materials. But for Rocky, I expected that, to be honest, but nothing like that was created because the process of creating Rocky was quite long. I think
Mm.
Neil Scanlan, my boss on Rockies on Project Hail Mary, he said that they were around a year trying to find out what the sculpture was, how Rocky looked, and then we spent another 4 months on the paint. So the directors, Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they had couple of ideas about what they wanted, but they were super open to anything to be changed, any proposals, any different stuff. So as soon as I started, I was making a lot of tests, thinking on after reading the script, thinking on what I read, what an alien stone will look like, and I start looking on internet, and I find volcanic rocks mixed with different other minerals, like with crazy colors, like when you mix something really dark and dull with something really crazy and vibrant, how you get that. And I at some point I had a room full of references, like pictures everywhere, and I was trying to do everything at once. So the first versions of Rocky, they looked really rich and vibrant and crazy. Like I remember the first day Ryan Gosling saw Rocky, it was in a camera test, and it was the closest version to Rocky, the Rocky we see on the screen. But after that, it changed a little bit more. And I remember he said, "Oh my God, he's beautiful. He's like Frankenstein, but beautiful, but cute." And it was what it is. It was the process of creating the paint of Rocky, like a Frankenstein process, trying to make it something interesting and alive, to feel alive. But for me, the most important thing when I try to recreate something, to paint something, is that as close as you are, doesn't matter if you are far away, if you are close, that you can believe it. You really believe, but that what you are seeing is real, is alive.
Yeah, and I'm curious, like, did you go deep into like, okay, who is Rocky? Like, what are his personality traits, and did that impact the way that you painted him?
Of course, yeah, he has to be cute. That was one of the premises. Like, he has to be cute. He doesn't look very aggressive. So that means that any paint you use, it has to be, yeah, exactly, cute. So we at the beginning, I try not to go too dark or too brown, which is the natural tendency that you will do as a painter, going for a neutral rock. And also, I had to have in mind that in the all the sets, the tunnel where Rocky is most of the time is quite dark, so the colors
Mm.
had to be a little bit pumped up, because otherwise it was going to disappear
Mm.
in that background. But yeah, I had to be always trying to. Actually, I was using colors to transmit like good feelings. So in the theory of color, there are cold colors, warm colors. So I was all the time trying to use warm colors, and the cold colors I used, they were always mixed with warm, like never blues, always greens, and things like that.
Is there any like detail on Rocky that people wouldn't notice at first glance that you put in
Oh
when you painted
yeah,
him?
yeah, many. Actually, I think my workmate, the guy who was with me at the beginning, Nick Terrell, he was creating these little dots in his arm that they represent the marriage between Rocky and his wife. I don't
Oh.
remember how they. I think they call him. Like the Rocky, the character, the Sylvester Stallone wife. I'm not sure. I don't remember who was it, but it's like
Hmm.
kind of a joke. So that at the beginning was a notice, and then all his arms has a detail that belongs to Rocky in a way. Like one inside arm has like a lining pattern just to make noise with it. That is, he's using it at the goodbye scene. And then there is another one where it's a measurement, like a measure tape or something like that. Like, nobody, I don't know if maybe they cut it out. I don't think so. I don't think they use it anyway, but it's there. It's like a
Mm.
massive detail of, because he's an engineer, so it's a way of giving him like this, like in the games, in the video games, that just sometimes if you have a specific task, you have something in you, like in this case tattoos or engravings or something like that. So yeah, many things that I remember. Like, for example, the back leg that we don't see much during the movie. We used to call it the poo leg because it looks a little bit like a poo. And on the top, there is like a flat bit that we try to make it look like it was chopped off, and inside you see like an iridescent colors,
Mm.
different materials, just to make it look more interesting. Yeah, so many details that nobody will notice. Actually, some of my friends are telling me now, like, "Oh, I'm gonna print one Rocky, and you can paint it for me." And honestly, now I'm taking my notes, because I usually take notes when I'm in the painting process of any movie. I don't know if I could replicate it because the mixes were so different, so complicated, so hard to replicate. And still we did it. We did like 7 or 8 Rockies in total, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. But I, because I have experience, I usually have my tricks. So at some point, I had like 4 people helping me. So I gave them 1 leg each. So if you are painting only 1 leg 8 times, it's easier that you are doing exactly the same 8 times than if you are painting different stuff. So yeah, I think that was it pretty much. Yeah.
And the reason that you made so many, was it because they needed to switch them out if one got worn out from rolling it around in that thing? Or what was the purpose for having multiple Rockies?
Because in the movies, in this case, this is a main character. I never painted a main character in my life. Well, other than stop motion movies, which is also the same thing. You paint a lot of spares. Because in a normal movie like this, you have main unit and second unit. So you need 1 Rocky per unit. Also, we need a spare just in case something happened to one of those Rockies. And then we had 1 head of Rocky that the stones were had a mechanism to pull the stones up and down. Physically, like a practical effect, but because it was animatronic and it has like motors and stuff inside, it was heavy. So we used that only on the scenes that required to be used. And also we had like spares arms, this part of the arm, just for the animatronic fingers. Because we had like a version of no fingers, just like this, and a version of animatronic fingers to be moved with the cables and the mechanisms, again, heavier than the other ones. And also we have one thing that we call Waldo is like how you explain that? It's an animatronic thing. So you have a puppet, in this case Rocky, in a narrow. Imagine that is for a narrow space, like when they are in the cockpit of the Hail Mary, for example, and you have a replica of Rocky, and painted in this case, in a table outside of the set, that any movement you do on this, it replicates. Replicates on the real puppet, on the cockpit. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Like remote control or something like that. So because of all these things, we painted about so many. Yes.
Wow. And then, I mean, I've also been seeing on social media people trying to replicate Rocky with like 3D printing. Have you seen any that you're like, oh my gosh, wow, this is so close?
Yeah, actually, I remember one woman. She has an amazing YouTube channel and really cool Instagram. Her name is Michaela M.M's Prop Shop. M&M's Prop Shop. She made an amazing Rocky, and I saw it on YouTube, and I really loved it because the way she painted it, it was very, very close the way I painted it, like using sponges, like natural sponges. Not all of it, obviously, because as I told you, I use so many different things and so many weird paints that dry in different ways, etc. But that replica was very decent. And to be honest, I've seen so many out there that they look so good, like so good. Like people is incredible.
It's so cool.
People are.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. And on this project, was Rocky your main kind of project, or did you do other props and other painting of the set for that film?
Because I was part of the creatures effects department, I was painting only Rocky, and I was painting also Armando. You remember the arm that takes things out and in from Ryan Gosling at the beginning?
Yeah.
He's also an animatronic and puppeteers. Puppeteer are moving it from behind.
Oh wow.
Yeah, you don't notice. It's really
I didn't
cool.
notice it was. I didn't know it was practical. I thought it was
Yeah, yeah,
just
it's fully
animatronic.
practical, and yeah, we were painting it, but it's less interesting than Rocky, of course, because that is more like industrial paint. But this is also part of my work on many other movies.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. And do you have like not just to this film, but like a favorite painting material to work with, or does it just change based on what you're painting? You enjoy kind of all the different mediums.
I think depends what you have to do. I like more one things or other things. For painting stone, I really like using like paints that replicate the look of lime scale, because I think it makes it very very real. And I also like to use fabric dyes, because I noticed that they have like a salty ingredient in them, and when they dry really really salty, and they are super cool. And I use them all the time on Rocky. Yeah, but no, not really. When I'm painting in sci-fi movies, when I'm painting chrome or metallic stuff, I'm using all the time like automotive. Paints that are the ones that we use on cars. So it's a massive variety of a big range of different paints that I use depending on what I have to do.
You have the coolest job. I swear. It's
Thank
so
you.
awesome.
You know what?
um,
Last year I was working on Ahsoka season 2, and it was directed mainly for by Dave Filoni, the new CEO of Lucasfilm, and because he's a massive nerd of Lucas of Star Wars world and blah blah blah. He loves like painting and aging. And I remember we were doing something very quick on set one day, and he came to me and he said, "Yeah, yeah, a little bit more, a little bit more." And he looked at me and said, you don't know how much I'd love to do your job." And I was like, wow, that is amazing that one guy that could do anything tells you that, isn't it?
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, you've worked with incredible directors, Guillermo del Toro, like J.J. Abrams, Tim Burton, Wes Anderson, the four very different directors. What do you think each of them brings to the art department that others don't?
Oh, that is a very interesting question, because the projects where I enjoy more is the projects where the director are more involved in the art department. There are some directors that they don't care, or they
Hmm.
care, but they have their designer, and the designer is the one who decides things, and the director agree, and that's it. But in the case of Guillermo del Toro, Wes Anderson, or Tim Burton, I think the three of them, you can see one screenshot of their movies, and it's one of them.
Hmm.
And that is really hard to get. I don't think it's easy. I think it's really tough to reach that level of identity. And I love when one director really cares about the finish and about what you are doing, because that is not very common, and because it takes a lot of work, and definitely to be appreciated is amazing, as you can imagine.
Always, yeah. I mean, was there ever a specific note from any of them that has stuck with you when it comes to making the art?
Um, yeah, I should think about it. But when Guillermo del Toro, I'd love to work for him again. He was around here in England, in Scotland for Frankenstein, but I was on Project Hail Mary already, and of course you can do everything. I remember he back in Madrid on this company where I was working on, when he jumped in and he hired us for Pan's Labyrinth. I remember he was very involved about everything, and he wanted like the authenticity of the dirt, and the props really tell a story, and he was looking for it. And that was like a really good lesson to learn, because honestly, when you paint a prop, sometimes that prop belongs to an actor, and the actor has to tell a story through it. And depends on how good you are on your work, you and the people before me making it. it's going to be easier for that actor or actress to tell the story. And I think that is super, super important. On the other way, Wes Anderson, for example, he's such a meticulous person. His way of directing is just taking control of every single step. He needs to approve, to give his approval to everything. That I could say so many things, so many emails about different notes about what to do, what not to do, lessons or remarkable sentence. I don't know. But to be honest, it's really cool to work for these guys. It's really, really cool. Yeah.
Do you like having like you just said you like having a more hands-on director when it comes to art department, but do you ever find that having too many notes confines your creativity, or does it actually like shape it to become the best version of what you're making?
Sometimes it's very useful. Sometimes you like to give your impronta and just do whatever you want to do. The thing is, if the art director, the production designer, the director, or whoever is in the other side, if that person trusts on what you are doing, I really like going on my own pace and decide things, because after so many years of experience, I know more or less what is going to work. But
Mhm.
on the other hand, sometimes it's good a guidance, because on the case of Rocky, for example, I was painting so many samples and things, and then we saw them to the directors, and they, yeah, yeah, but maybe no, but maybe this, but maybe, and it was really hard to guess what they really wanted.
Mm.
So in that case, it was trying, showing, start again, and then keep going. So if sometimes it's good to have like more clarity from the design part, but in the same way, I think that makes you develop an attitude of creating more than executing. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
usually, when they give me a design, and it's very, very specific, and I don't have to think about it at all, because I know, okay, this is this effect, this is this effect, and then a little bit of weathering, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like a robot, like doing it. But when you have to think about it, it's different. Maybe you have to sit down, you have to take your computer, maybe you have to take some pictures, start thinking, draw a little bit. And it's a different process, and it's more rewarding nowadays, I think. Yeah.
Right. I mean, because you're essentially creating this thing with the director and the production designer. Like that's pretty cool. I mean, especially I would think the challenge on Rocky is like he didn't actually exist, unless like they actually did research and they were like, this is the alien species that we want him to look like. I'm not sure, but I could imagine it was very difficult because you're just creating out of nothing.
Yeah, they never say this is the alien we want. They were more about, we want it to be cute. We don't want it to look aggressive. We want to look like crazy, but not too crazy. And yeah, it was a little bit of everything and nothing at the same time. And we were
Yeah.
building it slowly, slowly. And it was a nice process, a sweet process.
Is there a project that people don't ask you about often, but you wish that they did?
Well, I remember a few years ago on The Flash. It was a movie that in the box office didn't make it very well, but we were working so hard on all the props, and I did very cool stuff for the Batman of Michael Keaton. That it went back on that movie. It's the Batman that I love because I'm pretty old, so it's the Batman that I remember from Tim Burton Batmans.
You
And
don't look old.
and I remember, I knew what I had to do, and I remember the decorator. In this case, he was the one that I worked for. He came and he knew I know what I was doing, and we had a first meeting. I showed him like a big variety of different samples, paint samples, and he sort of explain me like, yeah, I think we're like a general looking design wise of the movie, and after that is just like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And I didn't have many designs on that movie, I think, because it wasn't needed really.
Also, Gladiator II, I was thinking about because it's such a completely different, like, historical world. I was curious what you actually worked on in that film and how does your process change?
To be honest, um, Gladiator 2 was a really cool movie for me to work on, because I came back to classic paint that I didn't do for ages, like marbling and granite and stuff. But at the same time, it's such a funny stuff in movies. Sometimes we are working so hard on something that you never see. And I remember a plinth, a massive plinth. We were working in London, but all the team was on Malta. So we were a small team still in London. And in Malta, the production designer decided he wanted a specific and very intricate marble effect. So he sent me pictures, and the pictures were like crazy. It looked like wow. So the normal way to do that, in if you had time, is just print a vinyl in that lovely marble effect that he wanted, and that's it, because it was really like lining and complicated. But because we didn't have time for that, I painted it. And it took me a while, like 3 days in total, painting, glazing, sanding, glazing again, all the process to get a lovely, like, transparency on the marble, and get a very good looking and realistic finish. And at the end of it, you don't see it in the movie.
Right.
Which is very common, to be honest, that you know, they probably film it, but at the end of it, they have to, in the editing room, they cut a lot. And in those cuts, it can be something that you work so hard on it, and it passes through so many changes, and then in the end it's meaningless, because it's not in the end, in the final movie. But it's part of this, I guess.
Yeah, no, I interviewed a prop modeler a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about kind of your attachment to these things that you create and what it does. And I'm curious for you, like, have you detached yourself more from the things you create and more attached yourself to the process of making them? Or like, how do you think about it so that you're not super bummed when they don't make the final cut?
Well, I always feel disappointed. Doesn't matter how many times that happens. It's really disappointing. It's like, oh, what happened with that? It was like my little son or whatever. I don't know. It's really tough. You still know that can happen. So every time you made a massive effort, you always try your best, because it's your job. But you never know if it's going to be in the movie in the end, and until you go to watch it on the crew and cast and crew screening that they usually organize 1 week before the worldwide release date or something like that. And then at the end of that cast and crew screening, you meet your old mates, and then you talk about these things like, oh, did you see that? No, I didn't. You think they cut it? Yeah, I think they cut it. Oh, damn it.
Oh my gosh. I love it. And then maybe sometimes are you surprised that like your thing gets more screen time than not, or no, not usually?
Yeah, but that is not a good thing, because if you don't know, it's because it wasn't like that, thought like that in first place. So maybe you didn't give it all the work that it deserved in the end. So sometimes it's like, why this is all the time there? It's supposed not to be like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I can't think now. I can't think now on any moment that happened. But yeah, sometimes happens. And actually, sometimes happens. You notice more on others' work when you see something really bad painted or bad finished, and I try not to judge it like, oh, look at this. who was the painter or the maker, because usually there is a reason, and the reason sometimes is that there were no time, or maybe the designer liked it like that, or maybe it was going to be in the background, but then on set someone said, no, this thing on the background, put it here in the front, and then it's like, oh my god. So
and the painter's probably like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh, all the inside stuff that you don't think about, that watching a film that you didn't work on, is so interesting. And I'm curious, I mean, you mentioned you've been in the industry for 20 years, and I'm sure there's been so many technological advancements and things like that. How has that impacted how you work, or does it not, because you tend to work on more practical effect films?
No, it also affects us. 10 years ago, the 3D printers, the 3D print machines went into a boom, a massive boom. Everybody has one now, right now. So I think that makes made many changes in the industry, because suddenly many sculptors had to change, like into digital, like learn how to model into digital, because the physical stuff with these 3D printer machines, they just kill that job. So we usually prototypes with 3D printers, and then they go to the mold department, they make molds, cast, blah blah blah, and then all the process starts. But the first step is the 3D print, because the technology is getting better and better. But 10 years ago, a 3D print was pretty rough. What you get from there, you had to sand a lot. And I was sanding a lot, of course, but I remember many people starting in the industry, they turned into sanders. They didn't make anything. They literally spent one full movie, maybe 6 months, 5 months, sanding 3D print. And that is really tough, because that means that you specialize on something that at some points it will disappear, because right now you don't need to sand that much. You need to, but it's not like as much as in the past. And right now, with the artificial intelligence, I think we are, again, on a similar scenario, that we have to change our way of doing things. For example, when I have to paint something like Rocky, or like a prop that nobody made a design about it, and I'm thinking how to do it, for me it's very useful to go into the computer and say, okay, a picture of this, I want to do these colors, this looking, and then you get immediately a picture of how it will be with those colors, and you don't have to do it in real world first, and then you say, or you see, okay, I don't like how this color and this effect match. I think this should be more blended or different color. You can see it first in the computer with less skills, because of course, if I knew how to do it, but still it's longer. Even if I knew how to do it in the computer, it's a long process. So I think for some of us, it's going to help us in the way that it's going to help us to do our work more efficiency. But for many people, it's going to be tough. Like the concept artists are going to start using it in different ways, I'm sure, because still artificial intelligence is really rough. It's very raw. It's not prepared to do as many things as we think it can do. But still, I think it's a tool that is in constant development, and it's gonna change the world we live now, for sure, but also in the different industries, like the film industry. But at the moment, in my job, I think I'm safe. I think I have a few years more as a painter.
Yeah, there's no robots coming in to paint Rocky
Yeah,
yet.
actually, you know what? About the cool thing about Rocky, and I think that's why it turns into a phenomenon, is that it's practical. And people love practical effects. Actually, I think like sometimes the marketing teams, they try to hide the visual effects and CGI guys because people want to know that everything was practical, even if nothing is fully practical. Everything has help. Everything practical needs the help of visual effects or CGI. But because people love that, and the marketing team, they want people go to the cinema and spend the money.
Mm.
They want to say that. They say that, no, like, no, this is all practical. And I think that is amazing in the era we are living now, where artificial intelligence is changing that so quick and so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing just like people wanting to see real things because there's so much AI slop or whatever you want to call it on social media. They're like, is this real or is this not? Like, what they are craving, this kind of like human, real, practical thing. And so I think it's so cool that Rocky was practical and a little puppet that people just actually became him in a sense. It's so cool. I'm curious for you in the art department. Has mentorship been a big thing in your career? Like, have you kind of shaped the way you do things from people that you studied under? Or how has that been for you?
Yeah, well, I I had to learn everything on my own because 20 years ago, YouTube was very a basic thing, and you didn't have many tutorials. But when I dream with painting creatures, I start buying some online courses from the Winston School. That is like Stan Winston was like one amazing guy that made amazing stuff, like creatures and practical effects on the 80s on the big movies, and all the legacy from these guys who work with him, for him. They teach courses on this Stan Winston school. And I remember my superhero is Steve Wan. He's a painter. He painted stuff like Predator and
Mm.
and Gremlins, and I really love his work. And I learned a lot from him. And 2 months ago, I had the chance to go to Los Angeles, and I just get in touch with him. And just
Wow.
because he has a company there, and because American guys are more welcome about this kind of stuff. You are more extrovert and more easygoing. So I text him about going to visit his company, and he was super open, like, yeah, of course, it will be amazing. And I met him in person, and he was so nice, so generous, and so humble. I didn't expect it, because sometimes people from that time, they look like rock stars or something. But this guy Steve was absolutely super sweet. And now that I live in London, I work in London. I like the way you get people that they are starting, like trainees or juniors, and they are next to you, and you teach them everything. And some of them learn more, some of them learn less. But I think it's really beautiful the way that here in UK, and probably as well in America, in USA, this like pyramid way of learning from the people who know more. And I like, this is very different to the culture in Spain. I like when you don't keep secrets and you try to share everything you learn, because you want the industry to live longer. And this is the way to achieve that more people are able to do what you do. And
Hmm.
I always have that in mind when I start a job. Like, even if sometimes it's a little bit painful having someone that is very new, you have to, because it's part of the business. And I think it's very, very important. It's like a payback.
Yeah, pay it forward type of thing. I love that. I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna start a new thing on this episode, which is the last five questions. I'm gonna call the final five takes. But
Okay.
before I get into that, is there anything that you wanted to chat about specifically, whether it be a specific prop or project or idea, anything?
I think it's because some people can think something. Some people listen or see this interview and they can think, "Oh, I love to do this, but I never got something like or work on something that I'm working." And I want to say something that is very important because we never talk about it because it's not really interesting. And it's about the fails. And, in behind all successful stories, there are so many fails. And I'm still failing every day. Like it's not something that I post on my Instagram or you know what I mean, but it's still happening. And the fail is part of the success. I don't think you can success if you don't fail before. So for all those that are listening and think that they want to do something like what I'm doing, but whatever, they can, of course they can. And if you fail, that you are in the right way. That's something super important to understand, because when I was younger, I used to think that you had to have the talent, and if you didn't have it, what was the point? But I truly think and believe now that you can learn almost everything. And of course, the sacrifice, in my case, when you move your country, is big, but in exchange, you have other things. And yeah, I think it's something possible for everyone or almost everyone. And I think the fail is part of the success. That is super important.
I love that. And I mean, that just inspired another question, which is, if there's someone listening to this that doesn't have like the network or the access to like find opportunities to be on film, what would be your advice to someone who wants to be doing what you're doing? How would they start?
I started like I started. I was doing stuff in my home, when I was working on shit jobs, and I still arriving home, and I was doing my stuff, my art. I created a dodgy portfolio and I send it everywhere. And it's about trying to keep working and to improve your skills. And right now you have so much material online for free, on YouTube, on social media. I think anything can be learned, and with the artificial intelligence, it can help you also to get faster into that point. So I think keep going, keep trying, build a portfolio. You can get contacts through on social media, LinkedIn, so many ways, and send your portfolio, ask for feedback. There are so many people that are going to answer. I usually answer everyone, especially when they look for a feedback, like what you think about my portfolio. And I try to be as honest as possible. And as I said, if a no is never a fail, it's part of the way. You are in the way. So is get an opportunity. Sometimes it's being in the right time, in the right place.
And I've found, at least from a lot of people that I've interviewed, being in the right place takes a lot of small little steps of making it. You don't need to like get right on set right away, but like doing little things that then get you in the right place to do it. So no, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, are you ready for the final 5 takes?
Okay, I am.
Okay, so the first one is, what's the most challenging prop you've ever painted?
The most challenging. I think that marble plinth that I told you on Gladiator II, that was super challenging because the production designer is not easy to please. And I think it was a big thing to do. And I think because he's not very easy to please, everybody was very nervous about it. Like, oh my God. That's why I say before that it's so silly that it was so important on that time. And then it's not in the movie, so it wasn't that important in the end.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it took. I know it's not a prop; it's more a creature. But it's like a prop. I have a friend. He used to say that Rocky is more a mix between a puppet and a prop. So he said it's a propet, like mixing both words. Of course, that was the most challenging thing for me, but mainly because I had to create it from zero and I didn't have references, as we talked before.
Yeah.
Definitely, it was really really hard. Yeah,
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received when it comes to your craft?
I think, believe it or not, is that this is just a job, because sometimes you get so much into it and it's so important, and the people around you, they really love what they do so much and they feel so much passion for it, that sometimes you lose a little bit the perspective and you start thinking that it's super important, and it's like, I guess, like every job, at some point, if you are too much into it, you can feel like, um, it deserves everything. But then someone walk in and say you, no, it's not. Your life is more important. So never put you
Mm.
on risk. And if, in my case, it's about wearing masks and proper safety stuff all the time, etc. um no work like crazy hours, or if you do, like, try to rest well, driving when you are sleepy, blah blah blah. I think is the best advice for anyone working in the industry, actually.
What's the worst advice you've ever received when it comes to your craft?
The worst advice, I guess, is probably the other thing, right? Like, this is so important. We are creating art. We are doing something really remarkable. You are doing history. Your name is going to be on credits forever. So it's something really cool and special. But I think sometimes that leads you into thinking that you are superior, or I think it's important also having your feet on the ground and realize that
Hmm.
you are only a painter and you are part of a team, and that team is brilliant, and everybody is doing their best, and if you weren't there, another painter were there, and mm, that's it. So I think is also cool to understand that you are part of a team and you are spendable. You are not essential.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's sometimes hard to find the balance of like obsession to,
In this
replaceable
world,
and like
yes, you
yeah.
know, you know what I mean. Exactly.
Yeah. What was something you used to believe about making films that you now have changed your perspective on?
Ooh, and I can say, well, I used to think that people in charge, they know what they are doing, but sometimes it's like, oh, come on, you should know what you are doing, and I feel like you don't. It's very weird, because you feel like when you are going up, 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 you start seeing people that are really important, really, really
Mhm.
important, and the way they react or the way they manage certain situations is weird, in the way that you think, like, this is your job. Your job is control this scenario, and it's completely out of control. What's going on? So I think it's mainly that when you see, when you are upper in the hierarchy, I think you start seeing that people in charge are less trained or less in control than they used to be.
Okay, so last one is if you could pick any role in the credits to be remembered for long after you're gone, what would it be?
Well, I always try to be a good person, also at work. Or I'm sure I don't do it all the time. I'm not success all the time, but I'm trying to be kind with everyone at work, especially, of course, in my personal life. But at work, I try to be kind with everyone because you never know who any is coming from, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really difficult sometimes when you are working under pressure or under stress, and it's very easy to be less kind or less nice with people around you. And I really like to be remembered as a person who was kind, or who had a nice word, or in a good way, more than the quality as a professional. Yeah, I think so. I think I'd love to be credited like a good person.
I'm going to list you as a good person in the credits of this podcast episode. But thank you so much for coming on. This has been so much fun. I feel like I could talk to you for 2 more hours and ask you a bajillion questions, but maybe we'll do a round two one time.
Thank you very much, Christina. It's been amazing to be here. Thank you very much. I really had very much fun talking to you. Thanks for inviting me.